Hello and welcome to Cityscope, a podcast featuring in-depth discussions of City of Salina projects, services, and initiatives. I'm your host, David Hawksworth, and on this episode we have Salina Police Chief C.J. Wise. Chief, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
When you took over as chief about, I think it's getting close to 3 years now.
Yes.
We had a pretty significant shortfall in sworn officers.
Right.
And I know your department's done a lot in the recruiting area, so tell us where we are in that regard now.
Yeah, whenever I first got here, we had about 58 usable officers. And I say usable because that's what we had to work the streets. We had a larger number than that hired, but they wasn't trained yet or anything like that. And so just manning the shift was very difficult. We put a lot on our officers, a lot of overtime, a lot of things like that, but they got it done. And so right now we're sitting at 71, and we just hired 3 new ones. I think is recently, kind of put out on social media, and they'll be going to an academy soon. So we're definitely trending in the right way. And hiring in general, I think it seems like everywhere is a trick.
Yeah.
But especially in law enforcement. I think maybe from 2020, there's still people that all of that and the feelings towards law enforcement has maybe turned them going, I don't want to go that route. Mm-hmm. And maybe some parents too, as kids are, picking out degrees going, go be a doctor or something like that. And so I think that affects it, and two, so there's less applicants, and then all police departments are fighting for the same officers. We have people going to Kansas Wesleyan that I've seen get hired by Topeka and Kansas City and stuff like that. So it's not like just because they're going to school here, we're going to be able to get them. Right. So it is tricky, but one of the things that we have learned is using just the way you direct your recruitment and using social media to target certain areas and I mean areas of the country, because if we're advertising in Alaska, we're probably not going to get anybody to come. I mean, it shocks me though. We have officers here from New York City, California, all over Florida. Mm-hmm. It amazes me. And, and they've all got a story of how they wound up here. And usually they either met a spouse here through college or came here for college and they decided to stay. They got some family or they got some friends here. And so it's very unique to hear some of the stories of what landed people here in Salina, Kansas.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's like I said, it's a competitive market, and it's tough and it's slow going. I mean, I wish like that we'd be full staffed, but I think we're definitely trending in the right way.
Yeah. You've made significant gains in that area.
Yes.
And I know you've stepped up your recruitment efforts, yes, like you said, and you have actually a newly constructed website.
Yes.
JoinSalinaPD.com, I believe,
yes,
the address is.
Right.
And so that
right.
Has that been helping?
It really has. And, I think, too, when you're looking for a job, and as you know, you have the expertise to build those type of websites, they don't come together just like that. Right. I think, some people think they might, but the one, we had, it took us a little bit of time to get it morphed over. And so if I'm a new applicant and I'm looking at places, because I did the same thing, you look at what they have, and the thing we had was very outdated. It had the old chief on there, and it had officers that aren't even here anymore on there. And so we've got it, and it looks very modern, and so that has helped a lot, I think. And two, we've got some people that they have a passion for recruitment. They've gone to different trainings and stuff like that, and they're listening to other agencies, and they're hearing what's working and what's not. And so, and it's one of those things, and unfortunately we'll get caught in a rut in law enforcement and probably any industry where we just keep doing the same thing, and then finally you go and you hear, oh, this is working here. And that was one of the big things we learned is you got to have a modern website. People want to look at that, especially this younger generation. They're so tech savvy and very much into the internet. Right. They're not picking up the newspaper like we did and go, oh, hey, there's a one ad.
Right.
So you have to make that appealing. So I think the website has helped with that.
And another challenge in recruiting has been retirements.
Yes.
You've had several long-term members of the force retire recently, and maybe a couple unexpected. So
yeah, we've had a couple of retirements, and we knew they were coming a few years ago. And these officers put in high 33, 34 years, and they were maxed out. And it's one of those deals where you'd love to keep them, But, there was that time where you're like, okay, it's time for me to go.
Right.
And like I said, they were really great officers, and I really enjoyed working with them. And then we've had some other officers that, other job opportunities. We had one out of state, very high paying job, and it's even not in law enforcement, it's on the civilian side. But take that, and then some people move to be closer to family and stuff. And though you just don't see those kind of things coming,
Right.
And so it takes so hard and so long. You recruit somebody, get them through a process, and then, if they go, and these officers, the last one I mentioned for family reasons left, had been here a couple of years. But still, like I said, whenever, when family issues come up, I get you got to go where it helps out your family and stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's definitely on us. You're like, oh man, okay, we're back. Now we're down 4.
Right.
And stuff. And it's like that in any industry. You can't prevent retirements,
Right.
and you can't prevent just these life things happening.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And once you do recruit people, there's quite a lengthy amount of time that you need to get them up to where they can be out on their
Right.
own on patrol. So tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, normally, so if you're a civilian and you've never been in law enforcement, you're going to have to go to the police academy, which is, down in Yoder, and it's for about 3 months. You learn. Everybody I've talked to, they've really enjoyed it. It's a first-class facility down there. So you go down there and you learn, get through your basic academy, and then you come here and you go through our field training program, which is 3.5 months long. You ride a month on each shift with a different field training officer, where you learn how to do the day in and day out jobs. And the field training program is geared towards, like, your first phase. You just got out of the academy, you get a training officer, and the workload is supposed to be about 80-20. So me as the training officer, I do about 80, and you're doing about 20%. When you go to second phase, you're supposed to be learning a little bit more, so the workload should be about 50-50. And then when we get into third phase, you should be getting really close to being out on your own. And so for that last month, the workload should be 80-20, but me as a new officer should be doing 80% of the work and figuring it out. And then we have a final phase where they'll ride with an officer and they handle 100% of calls, and we evaluate to make sure that they can do that. So you get plenty of training and everything. And so if there's people, that are out there that goes, oh my God, how do you become a cop? Now is the time to go into law enforcement, because I think, like I said, with the pool of applicants being smaller, it seems like there's probably people that, and I've said this, 10 years ago may have not got hired, because you had so many coming in where, sometimes you'd get a gut feeling going, I just don't know if they're cut out for law enforcement work, because it's a totally different type of work. And so you may go, I'm going to pass over that person for this person. This person seemed better fit. And so that's just a gut feel. Where nowadays, I think those people were 10 years ago may not have got a shot. Now they're getting a shot because, like I said, with less resources, if they've got a clean background and pass everything else, you go, my gut may tell me that this person may struggle with some stuff, but let's give them a shot, And some of them turn out to be really great officers. And sometimes you go, my gut was right, because we've had people that even just finished the police academy and go, this isn't for me,
Right.
Or a week into training going, this is a little bit more stressful than what I thought it would be,
Right.
So, but like I said, if there's people that I think are getting chances, and not just here, everywhere, to be an officer that may not have got that shot, 10 years ago.
Right.
So times have definitely changed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're making progress in that area and
Yes.
Getting towards that full staffing.
Yeah, as soon as we get full staffed, because as I always say, that kind of opens up our playbook. We can, we want to be proactive, and there's a lot of programs we would like to do, and it's hard to do when you're short-staffed, and
Right.
your resources are so thin, and to ask more of your officers that are already kind of stretched thin, working maybe a day off or something like that. So, but we're getting there, and we're definitely, we preach being proactive. And I think that's kind of has shown in the last couple of years. I was looking at the KBI stats, from 24 compared to 23, the crime rate dropped a little over 14%. And from 23 to 22, I was looking at my notes, a little over 8%. And I tracked it back to about 2013, and that was the lowest they'd been in that time period.
Right.
And so I think that being proactive is a big part of that, And there's other factors in the world that, that you can't trace down, you can take a guess at. But I think, though, preaching, being proactive has definitely been a big part of that. And our officers, they want to be proactive. And the more we get our staffing up, the more we can get officers to do these extra proactive things.
So expand on that a little bit. What kinds of programs or initiatives are you thinking about or implementing to help prevent crime?
Right. One of the things we do is you can call it several different things. A selective enforcement. Once a month, we bring in officers, and they're not assigned to a shift, but they're assigned to just go look for crime, whatever it may be. And they may help out our investigations unit. They may help our drug task force, but their job is to just go find crime, And, and so that has been very popular, and we have officers sign up for that and want to do that. And that also helps some of our younger officers, because when you're brand new and you've just finished all your field training, you want to be a super cop and go, I want to get out there, but you're also, well, how do I do that? Mm-hmm. And by that is by making traffic stops, getting out and talking to people. If someone's out walking around at 2 a.m. and it looks odd, let's get out and talk to them. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's one of the things too, is we started up our drug task force unit. So when I got here, it had been disbanded about 18 months. Mm-hmm. And so we started it back up in, I think it was October of 23. And because I see the value in having that unit. And that unit has been very successful and continues to be successful. And so sometimes when we've got this selective enforcement unit, they're working in tandem with them on investigations or getting, maybe some intel for them, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And stuff. And so, and two, the more we get more people on the streets, we can build back up our traffic unit and get people like, this is your job, is to go enforce traffic laws. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a ticket, but hey, you may not know what an improper turn is, but if I give you a warning, you go, oh, won't do that next time. And right. Then again, you may be one of those people that go, I don't care, I'm gonna still do it. And so maybe a ticket's, right. Fitting. So they're all of those kind of things. The more bodies we get, the more we can get creative. 'Cause we have officers with a lot of ideas, and we go, yeah, we want to do that. We just got to get the people, the manpower. And so the more we get there, I'm excited for when we get there, what this thing's can look at. And even like community outreach is we want to do more of that. Like, we had a citizen reach out to us about, neighborhood watch. Mm-hmm. And so, because that's kind of died off around here for some time, right. We would love to be involved in that, get that up and running and that kind of thing. And we've got some officers that have a passion for fighting crime through like environmental design, and that's with like working with neighborhoods or businesses. Hey, keep your bushes trimmed down so you can see this, put fences up, that kind of stuff, which that is a value, because like I said, if you can deter crime, then it's going to help with that crime rate too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know one community event, by the time this gets out to the public, mm-hmm. Halloween will have passed, but right. You have a Cops in Costumes event. Yes,
and this year it'll be on 31st. It's out in front of the police department, and this is something been long running. And it's a great event. I bring my kids to it. My kids love it. I think it was last year we found a McGruff the crime dog. And tell me,
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
So it's funny. We are a pretty young department. We break out this, and we're like, hey, let's have somebody wear it. And we had a new officer, and he just got hired, and he saw it. He goes, let me guess, I'm wearing that tonight. And so we said, you're not forcing it, but anyway, he goes, who is that? Oh. And so we started polling everybody. We're like, who is it? And very few people knew who it was. And you're like, man, that really tells me how old I'm getting, because we all like, oh yeah, we saw that guy like every Saturday take a bite out of crime, that kind of stuff. And so we broke out that outfit last year, but it's a good thing. One of our officers running it this year that kind of heads up, he has a lot of help, is Patrell Brown, amazing officer, and he's like been getting candy donations and stuff like that. And for those that have donated, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a great event. I've been there a couple of times, and there's long lines of kids there, and a great way to raise awareness about what the police department does.
Yeah, we enjoy doing it.
So, okay, well, there's a lot going on, not just in that area, but the city commission recently approved some equipment upgrades for the police department. So tell us about that.
Which ones are you talking about?
The body cameras and stuff.
Oh yeah, and that one is, so we use Axon body cameras, and it's kind of a continuation. And that's why I asked which one was that, because we've been with Axon for so long, and it's kind of a continuation of our contract with them. And it's just, I think they're either 3 or 5 year contracts, and we have a lot through Axon. They're kind of a leader in law enforcement. We have our body cams, we have like some interview rooms with them, our tasers, that kind of stuff. And so, we just signed a new contract with them, and so we'll be sticking with them. And they have gone into almost every area of law enforcement. They have, like I said, they have car cameras, they have a little bit of everything, and they even do like simulators and stuff like that. And so, that was our most recent, we're basically re-upping our contract, because unfortunately, there's a lot of tech being involved in, I think, all industries, but especially law enforcement, and that tech just keeps going up and up and up. So,
Well, it's important because if there's ever a complaint or anything like that, then you actually have a record of what happened.
Right. And that, you bring up that, and that was easy. We had a complaint the other day where somebody said, oh, this happened, and it was so easy. Our investigator pulled it up and looked at it. That's not what happened at all. And actually, the people you said was there wasn't even there,
Right.
And so, and then you're like, it's done, and the time spent, where I'm not having to pull you in as the officer and go, you tell me what happened and stuff. So, like I said, it's all on camera. So, very beneficial.
And another kind of backstop, I guess, is the Law Enforcement Citizen Review Board, which helps to help make determinations about what may be biased policing or something like that.
Right. So, we have that review board. And so what we take to them is, if we don't have anything for a meeting, we may do a presentation of something they request or something, maybe a tool we have. But if we get a complaint of excessive use of force or bias-based policing, some type of action that we took that was someone may have thought was biased, we do our own internal investigation anyway. Well, then we take it to them and present them. And it's kind of a unique deal, so it's all, in kind of closed chambers. But we lay out the case without them even knowing what my ruling was. Because our investigators will, there's rulings of like, sustained means it happened, unfounded didn't happen, non-sustained, things like that.
Right.
And so they don't know how I ruled. They're just getting all the evidence. And it's kind of funny, a couple ago, there was, as they were laying it out, and it was very plain. We were wrong. Our officer did wrong, and we addressed it. But I liked watching the panel, because as we're giving them information, I could see people kind of look like, oh yeah, I got them on this one, and then they explain, here's what we ruled. We ruled that we were wrong, and we corrected it. And I think they're kind of shocked, that, oh wow, they actually called out one of their own, but that's what we're supposed to be doing in this job,
Right.
And
Right.
so, but that is very, I like it, and and there's times, members don't agree with each other, and there's never, or I don't say never, but sometimes they don't have a unanimous vote. Sometimes go, well, I need more clarification or that, but it is a good deal where the citizens see what we're doing and hopefully build some faith in what we're doing with what they're able to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's great because you have citizens who are involved in those decisions.
Right.
And so that's a great way for the community to be involved in what you're doing as well.
Yeah, and and it gives us a chance, because there's a lot of things I think us as law enforcement, we take for granted, because if you do it long enough, like just police stuff becomes second nature, some of the stuff and why you can and why you can't do stuff. But as a citizen, we forget that you may not know that I can legally do that.
Right.
And so, sometimes there's you get that chance to explain to them, because there's sometimes people go, oh my gosh, so you followed this, your officer followed this guy, and he made and they dealt with him, because he made a traffic violation, and we're like, yeah, we can do that. I mean, we can drive, if we see somebody that we suspect of something, we can follow them, and see what's going on with them. And they commit a violation, as long as the stop is legal. And so people are, I didn't know you could do that. There's just different things like that, and I think I have been going, I forget that not everybody knows what we know,
Right. Right.
And so that is an opportunity for us to be able to explain some of the things, and and go, oh, and to get perspectives of people, because some people, they lock up when the police are around, and so that's one thing I want to try to work to overcome, because we work too hard to try to do things right. We don't always do everything right. We make mistakes, we address it, but for people to fear us or not trust us, you know?
Right.
And I think, you know, we just had a talk with a freelance reporter yesterday, and he was really, the transparency and, you know, and stuff like that and the trust. And that's the thing is like, no, we want that, you know, as far as with everybody. And two, you know, I think people have different angles, you know, as far as, but I mean, that's definitely, and that's why, you know, he asked, do you have an open door policy? I was like, I always have. I was like, because I walk-in people wanting to talk all the time.
Right.
And I said at one of these review boards, one of the very first ones, somebody had asked me, what do you do to reach out to different communities within our community? And I said, well, sometimes we have to be invited. And I was like, if you got an issue or you want to, you know, you're in one of these communities, reach out to us and let us know. I said, man, we want to have that conversation. If you fear us for whatever, let's have that conversation, you know? And, you know, it kind of a side note, so your coworker, Cash, you know, when I first got here, I was very interested in learning about him and kind of his stuff. And so we sat down and had a meeting. And through that meeting, it came up, he asked, you know, what have you done as far as to build relationships on the north end with the black community? And I said, let me do some checking. I was like, but I don't think anything. And I've asked and we didn't. And so he invited us to the Daddy Bud Day to be a part of that. And this past July was its third year. And we loved being a part of that. And that was a deal because if, you know, they had some existing program going on and we just try to force our way in, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
But he invited us in, and, you know, and we love, you know, cooking hot dogs for people and hamburgers, and that was just a great event. But it helped because he bridged that gap. Because, you know, people go, oh, because they, you know, because there's some places you can look where, you know, this community relations can be kind of fake, I think, where people go, well, I'm going to just force myself in. I want to take some photos. And I'm not a big photo guy as far as like when we do community events. And I even said, maybe we need to do more because people will go, well, I don't see y'all out in the community. I said, oh, we're out there. You're just not where we're at, you know. And that's what I said to this freelance guy because I was like, I haven't seen you at anything. So it's just kind of one of those things, but we definitely want to work at building that relationship and trust with our community members.
Yeah, I think I saw some pictures of you cooking at the
about
the event.
400 hamburgers.
Yeah.
You know, it was hot, but man, you know, one of the best things, you know, and I'm a praying man, and I'm like, Lord, please don't let me get anybody sick, and don't let me burn these burgers. And so Cash told me, he said, man, people were raving about those burgers, so that was an answered prayer for sure.
Sure. And that goes to the goal of what all the departments in the city do is to try to make Salina a better place.
Right, 100%. You know, and I think everybody, we're open to critiques and stuff, and every department is, and I think it's one of those deals where sometimes we don't know it's broke. People need to let us know, and it would, like I said, I think we're all open to have a open conversation with somebody. I think, you know, sometimes the keyboard warriors can get behind stuff and like not look for, they want to point fingers rather than solutions and stuff, but I think we're definitely all open for that.
Yeah. Okay, well, in the few minutes that we have left, is there any other topic that you want to talk about that the public should be aware of?
Let me see, what are we doing?
We haven't mentioned the Regional Training Center.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you know, that's one of the things we are very fortunate and blessed with. I mean, one of the best training centers around, you know. I came from Oklahoma, and two, the weather down in Oklahoma is not quite as cold as it is here.
Right.
And so I was really shocked. It's like an indoor training center, like that's few and far between in Oklahoma, until I spent a couple of winters here, and you're like, oh, wow, that's why there's an indoor training center and stuff. But it's, you know, it is great. You know, we host a lot of classes out there, which is, you know, is anybody knows where we're located. It's hard because, like, you know, most law enforcement schools, they're fairly reasonable, but if they're not put on here, you got to pay travel and, you know, and room and board and all that kind of stuff. So with our training facility, we're able to host a lot, and so that saves on any of that. So we just have to pay the, you know, the registration fee. So that helps a bunch. And also, I think the training center helps build our relationships with other law enforcement agencies. They come to our training. We hosted, I think last year, year before, an NRA handgun school, and the instructor was like, man, this is amazing. This is a great deal. We'll be back. And two, it's some advertisement, because if people come and they're from a surrounding agency, that is something where it catches your eye, where you go, oh man, I wouldn't mind working here.
Right.
So yeah, we're very fortunate that, the city, and I'm talking about the citizens and everybody, allowed us to get that. We're very fortunate to have that.
And who knew the Salina Police Department could be an economic driver, because
Right.
you're bringing people in from all over the state. They're staying in hotels, they're eating in restaurants, and
Right, and because just that exact school I was talking about, there are people from, I think, Oregon, South Dakota, Nebraska, from Drew and several. So, and here in the last couple of years, we have really picked up bringing in like some national classes. Because there's a FBI, for the FBI, and it's called LEADA, Law Enforcement Executive Development. We've been bringing those schools here, and so that draws people from surrounding states. So you're definitely right, that does help with that also.
yeah, it's a great facility.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, I've sure learned a lot about the police department today, and I hope our listeners and watchers have. And
Yeah.
and if they have any questions or comments about the police department, I think they should feel free to reach out to you.
100%, and if you're interested in law enforcement as a job, you don't have to come apply, but if you want to do a ride-along, we can work that out and kind of explain, this is what it looks like, this is what a day-to-day looks like. And so that might help you if you're on the fence too, so we'd even be happy to do that. So
Okay.
Definitely, David, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you being on the program today.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Cityscope.